Today on Free Field Training, we're going to be giving you even more pursuit driving tips. Everybody really seemed to love the pursuit driving tip video before, and one of the most common comments on it was, only 2 tips? You said you've been in 4 high-speed pursuits this week. How do you only have 2 tips for us? Well, I'm sorry I was being a little lazy, but today I'm going to make it up to you. We've got a whole bunch more pursuit driving tips. Some of them might even save your bacon if you're out there on the street, even if you're not getting in pursuits. Before we get into that, we got to talk about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Safe Life Defense. Safe Life Defense, you've seen us shoot it a whole lot on the channel, and this is going to be a bunch of things that are very popular for people to bundle together as cops or security guards, which I know a lot of you are. They're offering their level 3A plus vest, their soft armor vest, which protects against shotguns and stabs and tasers and handgun rounds up to 44 mag and multiple shots of all sorts of stuff, bundled together with 2 level 4 in conjunction with plates, a concealable carrier, and their tactical carrier. So whether your issue is with rifles or shotguns or handguns in your area, and whether you're overt or covert or switching between them depending on days of the week and weeks of the month, this bundle package will have you covered for all the different things that you could come into, and they bundle them together and save you a little money over buying these things separately. It's a pretty good deal, and they also have their quad pay system, allows you to pay it off in monthly installments, so that way you're not having to come up with all of the money all at once. So the links and all of that are down in the description for that. If you guys are interested, go check it out. Make sure you use the coupon code, save yourself a little bit of money, and it helps the channel. It allows me to make cool videos like this for all of you. Now, on to the meat of the conversation for today. We're going to talk about pursuit driving tips. I know traditionally that's something that you would do in your car, give driving tips, and then we would montage in like turning steering wheels and acceleration and shifting gears and pulling e-brakes and stuff like that. But some of these are kind of complicated. I'm going to need the whiteboard for that. So we're going to head on inside to the classroom and bring you all along with, and we're going to give you my top pursuit driving tips from horrible experiences. Come on. Poof, that's better. We got the whiteboard out, I got the whiteboard markers, and I'm going to give you a whole bunch of new pursuit driving tips. I'm also going to be taking comments and questions from the Instagram live stream. The Instagram people are with us right over here, as you can see, and we're going to be taking their comments and questions at the end, so make sure you stick around for that if you want to get even more in-depth in this topic. I'm counting on them to give us some comments and questions. If you like the comments and questions from the Instagram audience, or you want to be part of this conversation, follow me over on Instagram, Tommy_Free Field Training. So we're going to start off where the other video left off. In the other video, I said, if you're going the wrong way down a one-way street, watch out for speed bumps because you might accidentally find yourself airborne. Well, going airborne is a particular problem with pursuits. So another pursuit driving tip, especially if you're at any type of speed, is if you should find yourself going airborne over whatever. We'll have to draw this as a SUV now because it's 2020. And of course, very few agencies have cars. Should you find yourself going airborne, what you do not want to do is try to turn the wheels or hit the brakes when you find yourself anywhere in the air. Because if you do those things, when you land, you will very likely die. Let me explain why. If you are driving and you are going in a straight line and you hit something and the front wheels of your cars come off the ground, you're going to feel this. You're going to know it when it happens. The front wheels of that car come off the ground. Do not turn the wheels. Do not hit the brakes. Do not hard accelerate, especially if you're in a high-performance car. You're one of those Charger 5.7s, your department has those. Do not hit the gas. Let off the brake. Let off the gas, let the car land, and coast straight for a while, if it's at all possible. If you turn your wheels before you land, what's going to happen is the car, let's say the dotted outline here is the exterior of the car, and your wheels are turned this way, but the car is going that way. When you land, these front wheels will break traction, because if you're going fast enough for the car to go airborne, you are going fast enough for these front wheels to break traction when you land. When they break traction, you are going to be in a skid, an uncontrolled skid, and at some point, and you won't know what point that's going to be until it happens, these wheels are going to catch And you won't know where those wheels are pointed in all likelihood and how far over. So it will be almost impossible for anyone who's not like a professional stunt driver to correct this. And professional stunt drivers will tell you not to turn the wheels because they've almost been killed doing this crap. So when you land, it's eventually, you're going to skid, you're going to go out of control from that, or these are going to start to catch and the front wheels are going to start to roll a little bit, and it's going to swing you wildly that direction, and you're going to fly off the road. If you hit the brakes and the wheels are straight forward, you're going to have a similar phenomenon, only it's going to be a little less pronounced. You're going to land, those wheels are most likely going to break traction, and you're going to go sliding off into God knows where. The car is going to slide a long distance before it gains enough traction to where it's going to stop you. A car with locked up wheels will slide further than a car that's got the ABS going and it's just slowing down. So you don't want, because it's very easy when you're airborne for you to lock the wheels up. And once the wheels are locked, it's a lot easier for you to break traction when you land. So don't hit the brakes. And if it's a high performance car, don't hit the gas. You don't want anything disrupting the car when it lands. You want to land, let the suspension deal with what the suspension is going to deal with, bottom out the way it's going to bottom out, and you want to keep going in a straight line. Whatever that vector was when you launched, you want to continue it until you land. If you find yourself launched and you're going to go off the road, nothing's going to help you. You're going off the road. Better to land in the middle of the cornfield and continue into the cornfield and deal with the damage than it is to try to correct in the air and then land in the cornfield, plow the front end into the mud because the wheels are turned, and then flip end over end, because you're very likely to die doing that. So long story short, don't turn, don't hard brake, and don't hard accelerate. The hard accelerate is probably the least of them. Most people don't pay much attention to that anyway, and most cars aren't powerful enough to break traction from hard acceleration when you land. And yes, most of these are things I have learned the hard way. Pursuits often end, and when they do, one of the ways they end is that the car gets boxed in. If you're the front guy in a box-in, duck. Let me explain. Let's say you're going down the interstate and you and your buddies are chasing some felonious person, right? We've got a median here, and then you got the double side and over there. So this is one of those concrete barriers, 3.5, 4 feet tall. Over here is going to be easement of the concrete, and there's maybe some gravel, and then in all likelihood, if you're in the Midwest, there's a ditch and you're going to have some water over here, right? So what I'm talking about is a box-in. Most box-ins, we're going to try to accomplish them somewhere where there's a concrete median on the other side. Kind of takes the place of one of the cars. So you've got bad guy's car right yonder, and you're going to be pursuing bad guy. Somebody's going to call a box-in, and the other pursuing squads back here are going to come around and they're going to take positions here and here. And when they take those positions, everybody's going to slowly start to slow down and force bad guy to stop under penalty of ramming into these cars and not really accomplishing much because he's not going to move them because they're bigger than his car, or, you know, better driven most of the time. He can't back up because there's somebody behind him. He can't go out to the side, so he's going to have to stop. In this circumstance, what we have is a default. If you're not from Chicago or you have some training behind you and you actually follow it, you're going to have a felony stop, which means these people over here, especially this driver, he's going to be crapping himself because he's going to have a hard time getting out of that car with it boxed in. Hopefully he decided to nose it in so he can get out of the car without getting run over. He's likely going to be in a real bad spot. You are likely going to be in a real bad spot, and you're going to be up against this concrete wall, and there's going to be other squads coming up and pulling up to fill these positions and probably filling positions over here as well. And all of these cops over here are going to be pointing guns. And they're going to be pointing guns in ways that if they start firing, they are going to start firing like this. Do you see where all of those lines are heading? They're all heading toward this unlucky fellow. If you find yourself as that unlucky fellow, duck. You're very likely, if these guys decide they're going to get out and start fighting, you're very likely to end up doing more harm than good getting out of your car and trying to come down here and help. Because if you get out of your car and you come down to help, and all these people start firing, you have just decided that you are going to face a firing squad of your own volition. And I don't think that's a really good idea. So my advice to this person up here is to duck. So then you have the tailgate of the car, the back seats, the partition, your seats, and a bunch of glass and plexiglass between you and these handgun rounds that are going to start coming through. If you ever shot handgun rounds at a car, you know that they can make it all the way from the rear tailgate of an SUV to the front of the car, but you got a much better chance of them not hitting you if you duck up there than if you get out of the car and take the full brunt of the handgun round. So if you're that guy, I say duck. Watch out when you're in pursuit for hard stoppers and left pullers. Go back to our highway here. We'll just look at one side of the interstate. So we got a whole highway going on over yonder, but we're going to do our one side of the highway here. Here's our center concrete median. And let's say we got ourselves a 3-lane across highway and then our ditch in the water. All right. We're pursuing a car. They're doing the old weave around people through traffic in a way that we really can't drive because we're not lunatics and we'd like to go home to our wives and kids and all of that at the end of the day. And of course you've got somebody, normally from some southern state, driving in the left lane at, say, the speed limit's 65, so they're going to be doing 55. And you are trying to chase after Mr. Reckless Discharge over here, who thinks it's really funny to shoot at people in your neighborhood and then hop up on the highway. You have to watch out for the classic error of pursuits, and that is getting right on the tail of this guy, tailgating this guy, and laying on your siren. We'll get more about sirens here in a minute. Laying on your siren, hoping that he sees you and then pulls to the right. This person from the southern state, normally Arkansas and Alabama for some reason, he is not going to pull to the right. He's going to do one of two things, 100% of the time. See, if he knew how to drive well, he wouldn't be driving 55 in the left lane on I-94 at a 65 mile an hour zone where normal traffic's doing 80. What he's going to do is he's either going to stop, he's going to see your lights, he's going to go, oh no, they're pulling me over, and he's going to slam on the brakes, where now you're going to rear end him, and you're going to be writing a Dear Chief memo, or he's going to pull to the left. And he's going to pull to the left even though there's nowhere to pull. In all likelihood, he's going to do both of these things at once. He's going to slam on the brakes and pull to the left. If you're not ready for that, you're going to rear end him. So you need to stay off the back end of these people. One suggestion that I have, especially if it's a pursuit at night, get your spotlight involved in this activity. You see this person, they're in the left lane up ahead, cars flying around them. They just said to themselves, oh my God, look at that idiot flying. They're not looking for police cars and they cannot hear your siren. More on that in a moment. Get your spotlight, shine it in them. If you've got overheads, the takedown lights, bop the overhead so they flash on and off. It's really bright in people's rearview mirrors. They're going to see you, and when they pull to the left and they start to stop, at least you've got time to go around them on the right, or hopefully give them enough time where they actually pull to the right and you can continue on forward. Do not tailgate this person. You will end up crashing into them. Now, if you should find yourself as the number 2 man in a pursuit, oh, that's good for the number 1 man. If you're the number 2 man in the pursuit, you're the second unit in the pursuit, you're going to be following one of these sheriff cars or one of these police cars, right? This is my terrible artist rendering of a Ford Explorer and my terrible artist rendering of a Dodge Charger. These things are going to have strobing and flashing lights all over them. And they are going to be blinding, especially the unmarked ones or the semi-marked ones. They're going to have strobe lights in these back windows. They're going to have strobe lights up here. They're going to have them on the rear deck. They're going to be dotted into the bar of the Charger. Whoever invented that, that was actually genius. I really like to put the dot in there. These are going to be strobing in here. You're going to have strobes in the tail lights. You're going to have strobes in the reverse lights. There'll be strobes all over these cars. You're the second person in the pursuit. You're trying to keep up. You're on the radio, whether that's your citywide radio or your state police radio or whatever radio your agency uses for pursuits when they get up on the highway. And you're going to be looking for a telltale sign that the person ahead of you is stopping. Here's one that I learned the hard way. When this person's stopping, the only light you can depend on where it's not going to give you false positives and false negatives is the third brake light. Very rarely does anybody do anything as stupid as putting a strobe light in this third brake light. Now, in the Explorer, it's high up on the car. In the Charger, it's going to be near the rear deck, or it's going to be in the wing on the back of it if you got it unmarked. The third brake light is what you're looking for. The third brake light doesn't lie. If that lights up, in 99.99% of police cars, that car is stopping. And if they're laying on the brake in a pursuit, you need to be ready to stop as well. So watch for that third brake light. These, the lower brake lights, they have strobes in them, and sometimes they'll have flashers in them, especially if you're following somebody from another agency. If the flashers are running, it's gonna drive you crazy because you're waiting for it to flash and then stay on in order for you to know that they're braking. So you're losing maybe a quarter or a half a second. That's enough reaction time for you to drive a car like 150, 200 feet, depending on the speed you're at. You get near 90 or 100 miles an hour, a few hundred feet can pass in a second or two. So watch that third brake light. The third brake light generally doesn't lie. These suckers, these are liars. Those lower brake lights, they are liars. Some agencies even, if they do the in-house install, these third brake lights will continue flashing even when you hit the brakes. So you could be watching somebody from another little podunk agency, like the sheriff department from 3 counties down, where the sheriff himself decided he was going to go put the flashers in the brand new Charger, and these flash all the time, even when the brakes applied. So you could be looking and be like, well, you know, the brake lights never came on, and end up crashing into the back end of them. Don't do that. It's pretty much always going to be your fault, especially once the back end's all smashed up on the squad. You can't even claim that there was a mechanical failure. Be like, oh, Judge, you said the brake lights didn't work. Well, that's suddenly really convenient now that the back end of the car is all smashed up. So watch for that third brake light. Those tend to not lie. Even the sheriff, who's doing his own flasher system on the back of the car, tends to not mess around with the third brake light. They're kind of designed that way from the factory so people don't screw with them, because the third brake light's pretty important. So keep an eye on that when you're the second guy in the pursuit and you're trying to get on the radio. That one almost killed me. All right, remember your following distances. Following distances is the distance you're going to be from the car in front of you. So if this is the car that you're chasing, and this is the state trooper who likes to tailgate them, because for some reason troopers like to tailgate people. I don't know, maybe they like to pretend they still pit. You don't want to be following the same way right on the back end of this trooper. Just like your guy is going to pull left or slam on his brakes, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't want to be right on him. You want to watch your following distance. Now this becomes especially important if you don't have knowledge of terrain. If you're in your town and you don't know where every little bump and nook and cranny is, then the following distances you can be like, oh, I know when they go down there it's going to be a dead end, better slow down. Oh, I know this intersection's dangerous, better slow down. Oh, I know I can get over on the right, I can hop up on the grass. You go into somebody else's town and you don't know where all this stuff is at, you need your following distances to be significantly larger, especially for that 2, 3, and 4 man. If you're this guy, that's on you. If you decide to tailgate the person, you're probably going to rear end them, because they're going to hit something, and that's how a lot of these end is. They hit something, and then if you're right on them, you're going to end up hitting them, and that's never a good day to have to write the Dear Chief letter. So watch your following distances. When you get out of town, remember to continue watching those following distances and expand them a little bit. Whatever you think you need to follow at when you're in town, double that once you get out of an area that you have knowledge of terrain. That one almost killed a friend of mine last week. Good times. Your squad car can turn well or it can stop well. It doesn't do both simultaneously. Let me explain. Let's pretend like you're on a unicycle. On your unicycle, you have the patch of rubber that's adhering to the concrete, right? And there's only a certain amount of friction in that patch. So we're going to have the biggest unicycle in the world here, right? So in this patch that's on the ground, and on a unicycle it'll only be about yay big. On your car it's about, yay big. You maybe have 6-8 square inches per tire on your car. There's a finite amount of friction between the tire in the roadway. See, the tire bends to the road a little bit at the bottom, and that's what creates this patch. You only have so much friction. So that amount of friction has to be split between whatever directions you want to go, whatever input you give it. So if you tell the car, I want to go fast, it will turn the wheels until it breaks traction. You have a burnout going forward. If you tell the car, I would like to stop, it is going to try to put a force equal and opposite to the car going forward, and you're going to have a certain amount of force that it can apply, and then the tire's going to break traction. This is what ABS is for. ABS doesn't always work on squad cars, as you probably know if you're already a cop. But this is what ABS is for. What ABS does is it pulses the brakes, and it keeps you from ever locking the tire up when you're stopping going straight forward. Remember that. Now, regardless of what engineers tell you about all the magic and voodoo that they put into electronic stability control, there's only so much they can do. If you decide to tell the car, I am going to make you stop, and I'm also going to turn right. Because now you have to split the traction in this patch that the tire's adhering to the road in two different directions. Which means just like the guy that you work with on shift, when he tries to do two things at once, he's going to do neither of them very well, and he's going to do them very slowly. So if you try to stop and turn at the same time, it's going to be just like when you turn the wheel of your car and try to accelerate on a front-wheel drive car and it burns out and loses traction really fast. A lot faster than if you're in a straight line. You try to stop and turn at the same time. So let's say you're chasing somebody down the highway and they start turning and you realize, oh, they're turning too fast. I need to slow down. And you slam on your brakes and then turn the wheel, you will break traction. And when you break traction, the car is going to continue going the direction it was going when you broke traction. So let's say this is your car and you are chasing him. He's going to go around a corner. And you say, well, I'm going to follow him around that corner. But he's going way too fast, so I'm going to slow down. So right before you get into that corner, you start to slow down and you start to turn right. At some point in this path, you're going to lose traction if you apply too much brake and too much turn at the same time. And you're going to continue going maybe a little less in the direction you originally anticipated, which is going to lead directly to you sliding into probably somebody's house over here, up off the screen. So, your car only has so much traction to go around, even with four wheels, even with those nice sticky tires the Sheriff put on his brand new Charger that he allowed you to use because you're his cousin and nepotism's running wild in the Sheriff's office. There's only so much those tires are going to do. At a certain point, they're going to break traction. You're going to fly off in some direction, and you're probably not going to know what that is until they break traction and you start sliding. Be aware of it and plan in advance. Again, the stopping distance. If we know that there's a turn up ahead, we can go, oh, there's a 90-degree turn up ahead on this side street. And there's no way for me to go forward or left. I know I'm going to have to go right. Start slowing down, start thinking about that right-hand turn, hit that apex coming around the corner, watch the mailbox and the big rock the guy puts on the corner of the intersection because he's way too sick of kids running over his lawn making the right-hand turn. Miss those and make that turn, make it safely, because crashing into the guardrail at the end of the street is not going to help anybody, and definitely crashing through somebody's house or wrapping your car around a tree isn't going to help anybody either. Let's talk about something that we've been alluding to the whole time. Sirens. Been on and off with the whole siren thing, and you should never really rely on sirens, especially above 60 miles an hour. Your siren doesn't work as well as you probably think it does. Think to yourself about the last time you were on a highway and an emergency vehicle came flying up on you, and you didn't see it. You only heard it, and you heard it as it was going, and then you heard the siren. You're doing 80, 90 miles an hour. Nobody ahead of you is hearing that siren. You're driving fast enough that you're outrunning the sound of the siren. You're not going the speed of sound, but you're going faster than people can hear and process the siren. You've also got wind noise and all sorts of auditory effects going on that keep people from being able to hear that siren when you're coming. If you're above 60, just assume nobody hears your siren. I'm not telling you to shut the siren off. Definitely leave the siren on, leave the lights on, flash the overheads, flash the spotlight if you can, flash the high beams if you don't have a high beam flasher. Do all that stuff safely. Try to keep both hands on the wheel while you're doing it and talk on the radio, and basically doing everything you're not supposed to do when you're in a pursuit, because that's what we're all called on to do. We have to be able to multitask in all these different ways. But understand while you're doing all of that modulating that siren on the highway over 60 miles an hour is probably not going to do anything, because people on the road in front of you cannot hear it. And you should know that from your personal experience. But every time I have a new guy in the car, the first pursuit we get on, turns the siren, and we're driving on the highway, and he's taking his hands off the wheel and looking down, trying to find the stupid buttons, because nobody can make a knob on sirens anymore. That'd be too much to ask, right? Code 3. You can't just put a knob on the siren so you can reach down and modulate the siren without having to see the buttons. Let's make 60 buttons and make them all the same size and shape and material, so we can't tell what it is. But I digress. He's looking down trying to push the buttons to modulate the siren on the highway doing 90 miles an hour. Nobody can hear it. As soon as you get on the highway, turn the siren on. If you got horn ring transfer, maybe you could try that if you start getting a slow speed, getting off on a ramp. But I'm telling you, nobody hears the siren. They might see the lights. Concentrate on the lights. The siren's not doing you any good. All right, so now we're going to go to the Instagram comments and questions. Let's unclip them here. Got a whole bunch of people watching. Hey, thanks for watching Free Field Training on YouTube. And while you're here, why don't you check out some of these other goofy videos that I've made? Or you could subscribe, or maybe go over to Patreon and see how you get your name put on the videos, like these fine folks over here. All the links are, of course, down in the description. We'll see you guys next time.